Welcome back to The Ambassadors. I'm thrilled to dive into today's topic with you. Let's get right into it.
Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking a really fascinating daily devotional from Ambassador David F. Nwefulu. Now, while the overarching theme of his message is double honor, we're going to zoom in on a highly specific and intriguing concept from the text: humility, the vessel for divine glory and signs. We're going to explore the author's argument that humility isn't just, a nice personality trait to have. It's actually the absolute baseline requirement for a human vessel to hold divine power. Okay, let's dive straight into this. We've got a great roadmap today. We'll start by looking at what the text calls the soil of humility, then check out some biblical examples and weigh pride versus divine power. After that, we'll cover some application and daily action before zooming way out to look at the massive global outreach and missions network that's actually operating behind the scenes of this ministry. All right, section 1, the soil of humility, preparing the vessel. So the author sets a really firm foundation right away for exactly what attracts divine power, and it's anchored directly on 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 6. It reads, "Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time." The core idea here is that before any signs or wonders can actually happen, this intentional act of humbling oneself under a higher authority is the absolute non-negotiable directive. Building right off of that scripture, the text uses this incredibly vivid metaphor. It says, humility is the soil in which signs and wonders take root. I absolutely love how visual that is. Humility is framed here not just as some passive state of being, but as the active, essential environment for miracles to grow. Just like a seed literally cannot sprout on bare concrete, the text argues that supernatural manifestations require the nutrient-rich soil of a humble heart to actually take root and thrive. So what does that look like in practice? How does the devotional actually define this? Well, it breaks humility down into 3 very distinct actions: yielding to God's Spirit, valuing others, and acknowledging that every miracle is His work, entirely bypassing human achievement. Think about that for a second. It's about yielding control, shifting your focus away from yourself toward others, and fundamentally refusing to take the credit, which, let's be honest, can be incredibly difficult in our day-to-day lives. But grasping these exact parameters is the absolute key to understanding the author's mechanism for how God grants grace and supernatural power to a believer. Moving on to section 2, biblical examples, Moses and Jesus. And this brilliantly illustrates the concept in action. The text points to historical, biblical evidence to back this all up. First up is Moses. Citing Numbers 12:3, the text specifically describes Moses as very meek. It makes the case that it was precisely this extreme humility that allowed God to use him for massive wonders, like, parting the Red Sea, without the glory getting distorted by human ego. Then, the devotional looks directly at Jesus himself. Quoting Matthew 23:12, it points out that Jesus explicitly taught that humility is the prerequisite for exaltation. The text emphasizes that he performed miracles solely to honor God, completely bypassing any personal glory. So both figures are presented as prime, undeniable examples of how total humility leads to major supernatural manifestations. Which brings us to section 3, pride versus divine power, the barrier to the supernatural. So if humility is the conduit, then pride is the barrier. The author gives a really stark warning here. The desire for recognition acts exactly like a dam. It actively blocks the flow of divine power. Self-reliance just completely chokes out the supernatural, whereas a humble heart allows that power to flow totally unhindered. The author is making a clear binary argument for us today. When a person relies on themselves or seeks their own glory, the supernatural flow simply stops. But total submission, that brings consistent, unhindered supernatural results. Let's look at section 4, application and daily action, life application. So how do we actually put this theology into practice? The devotional lays out 3 sequential, actionable steps. Step 1, examine areas of pride. This is a call for real introspection. You have to identify exactly where self-reliance might be hindering you. Step 2, pursue humility daily. I think this is crucial. It highlights that this isn't a one-and-done fix. It's a daily, intentional practice. And step 3, give God full glory. This means you have to actively redirect any praise you receive back to the divine. The text even provides a specific daily prayer aimed directly at cultivating this exact mindset. Now, for anyone looking to dig a little deeper, especially new believers, the text recommends some specific administrative resources. It outlines a structured prayer of salvation for accepting Christ, and then points readers toward 2 resources available on the CELAR platform. There's an ebook titled Understanding Born Again and another called The Power of Prayer and Fasting. These are put out there specifically to help followers explore the richness of their faith and really understand the everyday mechanics of this spiritual journey. Finally, we have Section 5, Global Outreach and Missions. The Ambassadors Elite World Outreach Incorporation. Zooming way out from the individual level for a second, it turns out this daily devotional is backed by a massive global network. They're running something called Operation 500 Million Souls for Christ for All Nations, and the text outlines 3 very distinct ways individuals can jump in and participate in this massive goal. You can sign up as a prayer partner, interceding daily, you can become a volunteer missionary, actually serving out in the field on a short or long-term basis, or you can act as a kingdom investor, supporting the vision financially through consistent giving. It is a highly organized, multi-tiered approach to global expansion. And to understand just how vast this expansion really is, get this number, 22. It's honestly incredible. This ministry actively tracks and coordinates its daily community activities and midnight prayers across 22 distinct global time zones, every single day. Now, what's really interesting about this schedule is the sheer logistical reach. We have followers in Nigeria praying at midnight West Africa time. We have people in the USA coordinating on Eastern Standard Time, the UK on Greenwich Mean Time, all the way over to India, Kenya, and the Philippines. Despite being spread entirely across the globe, this highly coordinated community is locked into a synchronized rhythm of daily prayer, all based on the teachings of humility we just explored. To wrap things up, the devotional leaves the reader with one final direct challenge. Are you preparing your heart and life for the glorious return? It's a really powerful summary of everything we've unpacked today. Are you actively cultivating that soil of humility? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for joining this explainer, and I'll see you all next.
Thank you for watching. Please share, like, and comment. Your host, God7, David F. Wafulu.